Hello, it's Andy, and welcome back. And today I'm going to be going out for a very small walk, not a hike. There's going to be a difference. I'm going to be going as I am. I'm not going to be dressing to, fully exert myself. It's going to be a moderate walk. So I'm going to be using footpaths and bridleways. And on that note, I'm going to have a little discussion and a little talk about footpaths, bridleways, permissive walks and byways. Yeah, it's just doing the daily chores. I'm getting myself a flask of coffee in the process, and my wife picked up some treats yesterday, and here they are. So I shall be taking one of these along. Some nice cakes. Yeah, I'm looking forward to those. So as I sit here getting ready, I've just got up on my wife's phone, because I'm utilising this, Cornwall County Council interactive map, and it lists all the footpaths, bridleways, restricted bridleways. I can get that up on an interactive map. So basically, I can find out wherever these paths of whatever nature I'm looking to walk on, where they are around my local area, and indeed the whole of the country, I suspect, if you was to go on, shall we say, your local authority's website. So I've selected my immediate area. It's not, my actual home, but you can actually see the area I do actually cross paths and make my way into this area when I'm walking. And as you can see by those purple lines, there are some green ones being bridleways, but the purple ones footpaths. You can see just in my local walking area, I have a vast quantity of options to walk on my land that I do not own. And when I say my land, that is, I have right of way to walk on those public footpaths. I can utilise the green ones for if I was leading a horse or riding a horse or even push biking. But all the paths come with different sets of rules and regulations that you can find out yourself. And indeed, you should always be fully familiar of the area you're going to. But the point is here, as you can see, if I just bring it around to the whole area, you can see the vast amount of options I have to go off-road and move away from country lanes or roads. I have the ability to cross vast tracts of open farm, hill, moor, valleys, rivers, streams, you name it. I can cross over it using these footpaths and do it in a multitude of different combinations. Now, most people may be familiar with the local footpath near their town or village that, they probably might not even know it's a footpath, but it's just somewhere that they can walk a dog, they know that, and or go for a little gentle stroll, and it serves a little purpose in their immediate area. But what is vastly overlooked is when you get out into those country lanes, just that little bit possibly further than what most people walk, you still have footpaths in existence. And indeed, these footpaths can be very, very, pleasant places indeed. You can have a full-on adventure exploring the countryside and indeed be walking where very few other people walk. I have, for instance, known I've been walking on a footpath. I've actually had to bushwhack because I'm possibly the first person to walk there in months. And that's a pretty powerful incentive to get out into the countryside and link up footpaths, make routes and explore and see things and the area and the countryside from a different angle. And because of the vast array of routes I've shown you, it would take a lifetime even in your immediate county to even cover all those footpaths in different configurations. Yet again, I've just zoomed in a bit more and you can actually see the roads, dwellings, and you can actually see some boundaries of fields. Now, this is all suspect to change. It's all suspect to being fallible, and you could reasonably say you need a map and compass as well. With this, you should have no problem following footpaths. But in any case, I'm just going to give you a little bit of an insight. As you can see, this purple line joins from a road here, and it goes through an agricultural field, makes its way over a boundary, and where you get to the boundaries, that's always suspect to the maintenance and a possible poetic license in having to find the entrance if it hasn't been maintained. But as you can see, you're actually crossing a vast, substantial tract of open land. No houses, no dwellings. Till you reach another set of dwellings, and then you can make your way down the footpath, over another road, through another farm, and back into open field land where you can meet another road. Now, what I'm trying to show you there is the fact you can then find yourself moving along roads till you find other footpaths, and I'll scroll a bit better like this. As you can see, another one coming up down there, and you can link up again. And yet again, you can see that is moving over vast tracts of open fields, countryside, after being on a small little country lane. And the point I'm trying to make is you can avoid a vast tract of lanes and roads and explore the countryside. So this view you've probably seen if you're a regular to my channel, or at least popped in on it. You've seen this view, and this is from my back garden. Now out there in that countryside and rolling hills are those very paths I've just shown you. It's all out there and it's all waiting for you, and I'm going to be going out and sampling some of it. As you can see, it's a glorious day. There's sunshine, but there is a lot of wind. We are in the southwest of Cornwall, so obviously we get wind off the Atlantic, and that's a regular feature here. So I'll try and do my best to cut that out. But in any case, when you're following footpaths, you've got to bear in mind, as with everything in the outdoors, you have to bear in mind your own safety and safety of others. And indeed, you know, just understand where you are in the environment. It isn't just you know, plain sailing, just walk along a path. A lot of these paths you won't be able to deduce by looking at. You'll have to be following educated guesses through map work and indeed the app I shown you. But you can never rely on apps and phones, because obviously battery, signal, and in a lot of cases when you're in the valleys you will lose signal. So you have to be a little bit competent in being able to navigate and deduce where you got to go. But having said that, once you start picking up the basics, it's a thoroughly enjoyable way to spend your time, because basically you are on an adventure, and in most cases, if you're going to routes that you don't know, it is totally new to you, and you are actually having to forge your own way through in your own manner, following those footpaths. So yet again, as I said, you are creating an adventure for yourself. Right, this is only just a very quick walk. It is not the full hike that you saw me do when I did Sharp Tour, where I was dressed for the occasion. I'm just going in basic attire, and I've got a pair of heavy duty boots because I will be crossing uneven ground, and I don't know what I could be standing in. I've got a hiking stick, got my coffee, a granddad's pocket knife, and a fluorescent jacket for when I'm on the lanes and if it rains. But yeah, as you can see, this is just a walk, it's not a hike. So this is my basic kit. I've got no map because I do know where I'm going. map and compass would come with me if I was going outside my normal route. But this is a well-trodden route by myself in the summer, so hence I'm not taking it with me. But I'm going to bring you along so you can have a little chat and a little see where I'm off to today. So let's make our way. As with everything in life, there's always a start, middle and an end. And for me, this road here, or lane, country lane shall I say, is a good starting point for me to head out into those footpaths that we've just been talking about. I have basically 4 options, shall we say, lane wise, which I can take in my village. But this one here is predominantly the most used because from here I can access the greatest variety and amount of those footpaths, bridleways and byways. But it's by no means my only option. Like I said, I've got one in 4. I've got one of 4 lanes I can take, but primarily this is the view with my village disappearing behind me, and I've got the lanes in front of me till I gain entry to the first of the footpaths. In stark contrast to just only a couple of weeks ago, where the bluebells were really pushing out the vast majority of the colour in the hedge, it's now been replaced by pinks, reds and a smattering of whites. But it's amazing how the different colours come through at different times, and I can only assume that's to attract all the insects at different points. Now that sun is really pushing down. I managed to grab some sunglasses or shades, as you can see, because I'm walking into the sun in this direction, and I knew that. But I'm deeply regretting not getting my floppy hat, shall I say, because I can actually feel it on my head, and it's really, coming down. It's, when the sun comes through, it's scorching. On top of that, I've had to remove my small zipped hoodie and tie around my waist, because already, and I'm only probably half a mile from home, I can actually feel a little bit of exertion due to the heat. So yet again, a little bit of poor planning on my part. Down on the opposite side of that hedgerow, and just a bit further down in the dip in the valley, there is a farm that has disappeared to time. Now, I did mention in a video that I'd been told there was a farm that had been allowed to be demolished and taken off the local landscape, as in it was bought out by other farmers, and the farm basically just disappeared as it got sold off in chunks, and the buildings were allowed to get dilapidated till they were pulled down. But after some research, like you say, with some of the older guys and ladies, there is actually, or was actually, a farm down there. I think I know where the track is, and that will be something I will investigate at some point, but obviously not today because I'm looking to get onto the footpaths. This could be the start point, but it's going to be our exit point from the footpaths. So you can see it's well maintained. You've seen it before in another one of my videos, but yes, we will be coming back to this one in a moment, or in an hour or two's time, but we're going to make our way over to a different start point and do a loop. He's not at all concerned about me at all. He's just gone back to eating that little rabbit down there. Well, this is a icon of Britishness, the red telephone box. As you can see, it's in a pretty poor state of repair, and I don't for one moment think it's operational, but most of them have been removed, and I'm sure this one will be removed in the near future. But I'm continuing to make my way down this lane, and the entrance to that footpath is just around the corner. Well, this gateway, and which leads to this pathway, which is going up through this little track, is where, from what all information leads me to believe, is where that farm would have been, somewhere up in that trackway. And perhaps there might be a little clandestine little look-see at some point, but as I said, not today. Well, we have some bluebells in this little bit of a forested section by the road, which incidentally has a small entrance into a very old quarry. Now, I'm going to walk up into it. Yet again, you can see what I mean by adventure. You do get sidetracked. And you could quite happily find yourself discovering and looking around well, areas that you would just drive by and not give a second thought. But yes, I do like a little bit of exploration. I haven't been in here, so I don't honestly know how far back it goes. I could hear woodpeckers earlier. And I've just heard something scamper off up into the woodland above me. Some trees have come down there. And you got the roots to that big old tree there, just hanging in midair and disappearing into the rocks. This would have been worked for building materials and roads and things like that. But I must make my way forward. As you can see, I'm getting sidetracked. So this is the start point for my first off-road section, and you can see they've got a small gate there to give you access. Now, if you use that particular app and a map and compass, you can get an idea where you need to be and where you need to be heading in this field, because without it you have a vast area you can pick to try and find that entrance. And would it be that entrance down there? I mean, that's why I'm saying you do have to have a little bit of navigational instinct or the ability to read a map and compass to fully appreciate what you're doing here if you are in an area you don't know. But you can actually see this is a well used pathway here, so we can deduce that we're going to have to go along this way, and indeed I know it's along this particular path. So I'm well into this off-road section, and it's on a piece of good pasture agricultural land, and there's a reasonably clear defined pathway down to a set of gates which I know are there. But it's which gate do you take? You take the wrong one, you don't gain entrance to the next part of the off-road section, and that could lead you stumbling around looking for the next pathway. So yet again, with that app and the use of a map, if you're in an area you don't know, you are reasonably able to deduce where you got to go. I've got some spectacular views now opening up with a valley disappearing before me, and you can see I'm making my way down to a large decrepit oak tree which looks like it's been pretty battered by the elements. So I'm making my way down to there, and we'll cross into another field. There are three entrances, like I said. There's one down there, which you might just be able to see, one there and one there. This one's identifiable because it's got the symbol for the footpath there, but that's nothing to rely on as in that you can guarantee they will be in existence. And like I said, the app for people who are more, shall we say, in that way inclined, or the old map and compass will give you an indication of which way you need to go. And as I've said, you can quite clearly see public footpath, and it's denoting where you go, and you can see the tracks. Always make sure you latch gates and do things according to the country code, because if you don't, it always causes problems for people coming behind you who may get accosted, and you may upset the actual landowners. Now, I'm going to do a little bit of a chat in a minute when I sit down for a coffee and talk about footpaths and land ownership. Now, this footpath isn't widely used. A few people use it, but it's not treaded by, shall we say, a large footfall, and it's actually spectacular coming down into this really lush little should we say, little bit of a valley, and this is what it's all about, and what I keep saying to you, that this is where you can be. You do not have to spend thousands to go on expensive adventures. All this is actually there waiting for you just outside your door, or a very small distance from it. Right, I'm making my way to a sty which allows me to gain entrance into the next part of the footpath, and it will require a little bit of a scrabble over some stones and a very small stream. And you have a rather large holly tree here, which is worth avoiding rubbing up against, because yeah, the actual prickles on the leaves do actually cause you a little bit of grief. There, so I've made my way through, and as you can see where the path is going, and I'm going to head up there and find somewhere to sit and have a coffee. I've now left that sty, and you can see the path, and in winter it's a little bit marshy there, but as you can see, I've come up through the path, and I'll pan you around, and you can see I'm heading up now into another field. Now I'm going to find somewhere to stop and have a cup of coffee. I could push on, and there's a squirrel. He's actually making his way up the tree there. Missed him. But I'm going to find somewhere to have a cup of coffee, like I said, and a little chat. There's my cup of coffee, and I've just perched myself on a piece of nice sunlit ground, and that's the view I'm looking out over. Totally outstanding, totally free, and totally mine. Now, these footpaths have been in existence for hundreds and hundreds, if not possibly 1,000 years, some of them. Now, the thing is, they've been used by should we say, armies going to war. They've been used for commerce, they've been used for miners, people going to church, going to the pub, going to school, social events, and indeed just people like the basic fundamentals of life, going to see your partner who you were courting. You would walk these lanes to get, and footpaths to get to the nearby village, to the young lady you were courting, or the young man would be walking them to meet yourself. They're an integral part to our country, the countryside, and they're woven into the fabric of basically our history. You have access to them. There are sometimes rules and regulations which you can find out and look up for the various different areas or paths you're going to be using and type of path, but ultimately this is all there waiting for you. During the 2 years of the pandemic, I saw people queuing, 50, 60 deep to touch the trig points on top of some of our most famous landmarks and mountains. In the meantime, I was walking these valleys, on the moors, and indeed through the agricultural fields like this, and I would see nobody. And in a lot of cases, I was doing this on areas I knew nothing about, and I was in full exploration mode, and I was loving every minute of it. I can only assume that, people just don't want to do this for some reason. That's why they're not on these paths, or they're totally oblivious to the fact that they can be doing it. Adventure awaits you here. You do not have to pay vast sums of money or drive distances, and in most cases, most people, a short walk from their door can gain access to these public footpaths. If not, a very short drive to a little village, park up respectfully, get the map out and have a look around, and you too could have your own adventure. All this land is owned by somebody, and people keep saying, England and Wales and Scotland are owned by, basically The rich and the upper classes, that may be true, but these paths give you access to it. You can walk through it, over it, and enjoy it as much as they do, and the views are free. Like I said, I'm utilising my right to be here and enjoy this, even though I do not own 1 square inch of this ground. I don't abuse it, and I won't abuse it, but I come here and enjoy this as much as the person who actually owns the whole land in their entirety. But I am respectful to the fact it's not mine. I'm sat here on the path and I'm having a cup of coffee, enjoying what's around me. And I can only hope that I can inspire you to do the same. So I finished my coffee, got myself together. Now I'm at the end of the actual agricultural field system, and I come to a off-road lane which will take me down to another public lane, country lane for vehicles, but it's still possibly a good 300-400 meters, and I will have to make my way down this track, as I've said. And it is part of the footpath, and it is very pleasing to walk on because it's good easy going, and you do get to see a lot of insect and bird wildlife. So while you're out on these paths, you will see more wildlife because you are in the true countryside of the actual fields, woodlands, rivers, streams and valleys than you possibly will in those heavily managed, what are termed as wildlife sanctuaries and areas of outstanding natural beauty, quite simply because of the heavy footfall that they receive. Yeah, you will find more wildlife, and as I've said before, this is the last true vestiges of the British countryside that you can walk through and see the wildlife in a raw, unmanaged state. You can hear peacocks there, somebody's keeping peacocks. But that footpath came out onto this lane, and I'm descending down into a steep valley. As you can probably see by that field and how it drops away. And I will be making my way down this quiet country lane till I hit another off-road section of the footpaths. And it is absolutely gorgeous. So to recap what I'm actually doing, and I am not following any predestined or route that has a rating or an approval by anybody. All I am doing is linking together sections of footpath with country lanes to provide myself with my own walk. Now, in a world today that hikers have pilgrimages where they have predestined destinations they want to get to, and trackways and shall we say milestones, quite literally, that they want to achieve, and quite often in the fastest possible manner. What I'm doing is totally in the opposite vein from that. I'm out here in the countryside, taking my time and making my own route and linking it all together to provide me with what I want, which is to be out in the countryside, in nature, and possibly, and my whole aim of what I do is to be possibly as far away from other people as I can. You know, it's starting to get hot when the cattle are looking for shade amongst the trees. And yeah, I do have a fair sweat on, and I wish I'd actually thought about the choice of trousers rather than jeans. So I'm now about to exit the actual lane, and I'm making my way down to my second excursion on a public footpath. And that will be down this small little track down here. When you reach the bottom, you have a little bridge system to go over. It's pretty rudimentary, but it's pretty much in the same vein as what you will find over most parts of Cornwall on these footpaths. Just tread careful so you don't end up getting wet. And then make your way into this gorgeous field. The wind noise might be annoying for you, but it's quite refreshing for me because it's cooling me off. We will get out of the wind when we get over to a forest in a moment. This is an extremely large field that we've actually just been walking through. And you can see, hopefully, all the sea of yellow, and that is buttercups. But you can clearly see where we're heading to, and it's a well-defined sty. No need to get lost in this field. It is as blatant as daylight, that one. And we'll be making our way into the next field to a small little woodland where I'm possibly going to indulge in another cup of coffee. Right, I've come to another gateway which enters into the wood, and you can just see here I've just crossed another little bridge that goes over to where two streams meet, and it's where cattle obviously drink. It's all poached, the ground is, which basically means it's where they've been standing and they've turned it into a bit of a quagmire. Luckily today it's been dry and sunny, so there's easy access, but in the winter months this can be somewhere where you can get that syndrome where you stand in the ground, and if you're wearing Wellington boots you can find yourself walking away leaving one in the mud, and then trying to figure out how you hop around on one foot and try to retrieve the other welly. But yeah, I'm sure many of us that frequent the countryside have had that experience before. And as you can see, I'm in the woodlands, and to be honest with you, this is where folklore is born. It was where it was believed, and it was where people did actually say they had interreactions with everything that you read about and are told about involving folklore and the stories surrounding it. That is quite often because people would be walking these footpaths in the dark or early in the morning, possibly by themselves. And indeed, with all the stories and all the legends and folklore their grandparents and people would have told them, and indeed the relatives from a bygone age that would have passed those stories down, they could quite possibly just think in the shadows, in the undergrowth and within the forest, those stories could come true. And they also served as, shall we say, lessons of and about life, about how you should conduct yourself in a moral way. And indeed, a lot of the stories had a component which could be brought to bear on their everyday lives. So those little creatures from folklore did actually serve a purpose to the people of those days, travelling footpaths like this. You don't need me to even begin to explain how beautiful this actually is. And I've got to make my way down this particular footpath, continue through the woodlands, up through another field, and then into some lanes, which I will have to do some uphill now because I'm in the bottom of a valley. Now I will gain entry to another set of footpaths there. So I'm going to plod this out and enjoy this, and I'll reconnect with you in a few moments' time. Well, there would have been a sign saying footpath there, but it's evidently not there for whatever reason. You know, answers on a postcard type thing. But you can clearly see that's where I've come up, and that's the woodland behind it. It's looking absolutely stunning. It's all native, that is. And I'm going to be making my way through the lanes and on to the next section of, well, cross-country footpath. What's interesting about this particular lane, along with a lot of others, is, as with everything, people wanted to purvey an air of, I don't know, upwardly mobile social advancement. And part of it years ago, middle class, shall we say, farmers and landowners aspiring to be seen as something of, shall we say, a greater nature than they were, would plant lovely rows of beech trees on their lanes and indeed the trackways to their properties, and this would create a beautiful canopy of trees. So these beech trees were there to impress the visitors and the people coming to their properties at the time. Well, I've just passed a very affluent farm, or it would have been. Well, it still is today by the looks of the cars outside. But as you can see, this whole row of beech trees, they're not an accidental feature. Like I said, they were there to purvey an air of grandeur to the horse and carts or carriages bringing visitors to this, shall we say, well-off farm or landowner. So, and you can see why. It does look quite impressive, and it's still to get better as the summer goes on. And as I walk to the end of this lane, you can actually see what would have been old gate posts, or posts to signify you're entering into the landowner's property or heading into his property. So there you can see it. There's those great gate posts. Right, to my next entrance to the footpaths. I could have taken one further back there, but that's moving in a different direction than I want to go or have planned to go today. So I'm going to plod slowly up these country lanes and just soak in the sun, the scenery, and just enjoy actually being out here today. And here it is, the sign, and it's well signposted actually, but don't always expect that. Like I said, you will have to rely on mappage, or shall we say digital forms of you know, finding where you need to be. But you know, in cases like this, it does make it a lot easier. But as you can see, it's well signposted, and this is where I'm going up over. There would have been a wooden post there at some point. It's no longer there because I've only ever known this field here to have like arable crops planted in it of some description. So I'm going to make my way over, and it's quite simply a case of dropping back down into the field. And I know I have to follow this hedge line to the next sty. But as you can see, totally gorgeous day. And as I keep saying, it's all free. And here it is, it's my next sty from the field we've just walked through. And this is really what I would classify as the bog standard, typical footpath sty, particularly down here in Cornwall and Devon. And this is what you're more than likely going to run into. This one is pretty well kept though. Some of them can be in a state of disrepair, but yet again, just climb over, and I know I've got to be making my way down here and through this farm. This is quite a pleasing little part of the footpath because there's a nice little duck pond with this farm. But I'm making my way down to the sty, and I'll be making my way through into a area of the footpath I'm quite apprehensive of, quite simply because unless it's very midsummer, it is heavily boggy, and I'm just hoping upon hope that I'm not going to be up to my knees in mud. Right, you can clearly see where I'm at. I'm in this actual bog now, and I've got to get over there. I've crossed this when it has absolutely been treacherous. I'm talking disappearing up to your bum if you get it wrong. And I am being very cautious, even though it's dry here. I'm trying not to have an accident. I haven't got wellies on. I've just got ordinary boots, as I showed you. And as I get down to near the water front here, you can see it's areas like this you have to be careful of, and it's already getting wet, so, and I can hear water, so I'm going to put the phone away and concentrate on getting through here without disappearing up to my knee or bum in mud, water and muck. Well, I'm on the opposite side to that bog. I got through. That took a lot longer, and it was a serious bog. It wasn't to be messed about with. There's parts that you could easily disappear a long way, and I wouldn't like to guarantee how far. That is one of the reasons that you have to be careful when you're on public footpaths. You know, you've got to take some responsibility and ownership for your own safety, and possibly somebody with you. So yeah, you know, you have to, and if you felt that it's beyond your capability, know when to turn around and head back to a lane or a road and you know, find a different route. I've done that one many a times, but even I have to take that slow and careful to avoid disappearing into the, shall we say, unknown depths. So yeah, always tread carefully, cautious, know your limits. And yes, even on public footpaths there are still dangers, so be aware, be cautious and be safe out there. But I'm going to go up here and try and find somewhere to sit down and drink the last dregs of my coffee. You can probably see I've got a glimmer of sweat on my forehead now. This is my next obstacle, and it's quite a high hedge here, and it's got some protruding stones as steps. But it's quite a hike, so yet again, as I've said before, take your time, be safe and be careful. But I'm going to plonk myself down here and, like I said, finish my coffee. So I've just come up that stile that I just showed you, and that brings me up onto another field and another level. It's substantially higher than that ground there, and it's obviously over the years been excavated to have this kind of terraced effect. But yes, we are in another field freshly sown with crops, and you can see where the rabbits have been digging away at the corners, and indeed even so far as into the field itself. That just goes to show how destructive rabbits can be to crops. But we are heading over there, but as you can see, this is freshly planted, and that is the official line of the footpath. But following the country code, we're not just going to march across freshly planted crops. If the farmer had already created a track himself walking across, we could do so. But as you can see, there's no fresh track, and we're not going to destroy his crops. So we will walk around the outside. It's a lot longer and more tiresome, but that is how you operate in the countryside. You can see a load of fur and well, it just looks like fluff, but it is actually rabbit fur. And a very short distance away there is the half-eaten carcass of a rabbit. And as we've just been talking about rabbits, it does kind of serve to remind you that they are preyed upon, and yeah, something has made a meal of this rabbit here. In amongst all this obvious planting of this particular crop, there is remnants of what was probably planted here before trying to come through. I think the terminology is like volunteer plants, whereas they're leftovers from the last crop, and they kind of come up on their own accord. But yeah, every now and again there's one or two of these, and I'm not sure what it is. It possibly potato by looking at it, but I'm not 100% sure. But every now and again I come across a little patch of it. Yeah, I must apologise for the wind. It has really picked up now, but there's the remnants of the actual footpath sty, and it looks like a tractor's taking it out. But in all essence, we're making our way down through here. It's freshly planted crops again, so I'll have to skirt around, and we're going to make our way right away to the top of that footpath. And I can actually see in that very distant field there is actually a track going right across, so I may be able to follow that, but I'll assess that when I get there. Right, you can clearly see the hedge up there, and as you can see, we couldn't take a direct path due to the freshly planted crops. We've took all the outside perimeter and then coming back uphill to here. And if I swing you around, you can quite clearly see what I thought was going to be a track is nothing but the faintest of lines. And if I was to walk across that, I would make a substantial swathe of that damaged. So yet again, I'm going to have to track the hedge line. Now I know it goes down a fair way, and then I'm going to have to come all the way up around again to basically that clump of trees up there. So it's a long slog, but I've just got the final push till I hit that sty. So let's not cut any corners now. We've gone this far and we've done things correctly. You can probably see I've got a little bit of a sheen of sweat on my forehead and face. It is getting extremely hot, and like I said, I know pretty much this little walk is coming to its conclusion soon, but I've got this last little bit to push out, and as I've just alluded to, we'll do this correctly. It's very tempting just to go straight through that field, but we won't, because we know we're going to do things correctly. Well, I'm back to that footpath sty, which could either be the start or the finish, as I said at the beginning of this video. But as you clearly can understand, I'm at the very end now, and I'm going to go and get a nice cool drink and one of those chocolate cakes at home. It's about a mile for me to plod out from here. So I hope I've inspired you to just have a little look and see what you may have locally, to what you can actually go and have an adventure yourself. You don't need to chase down the biggest mountains or the most enduring hike, because guess what? You can have your own little adventure pretty close to yourself, and possibly be in a place that very few people go. These footpaths are overlooked and underused. So yeah, I hope I've inspired you to go and have a little look around your own little area yourself. So yeah, this is Andy from Folklore Hiking Sticks. Take care when you're out on the footpaths, be safe, and I'll catch you again.